Trust Once Lost, Chapter 43, Part 3.
Feeling better, Green?
Asked Dr. Image.
Yes, thank you.
I said.
It seemed to me like you didn't want our session to end,
said Dr. Image.
Is there a particular topic you wanted to make sure we covered?
I couldn't find the words. How can I even begin to bring up my past life? I turned away from Dr. Image and looked at Applejack.
Applejack?
I said.
Do you remember what I told you? Before you took me to see the therapist about where I was from?
Applejack seemed to freeze for a moment.
Yeah, I should have listened better.
Applejack pulled me closer.
I know how hard it must have been to admit that, and... well, I should have been more open-minded.
What? How does she already know that?
I slowed my breathing down.
It's okay. If she already knows, then that just makes this easier.
Do you want me to tell him?
She asked.
No.
I'd given up making eye contact with any pony.
I've gotta be honest. So, Dr. Redcross probably told you I'm not a normal filly, right?
Normal is relative,
Mirror responded.
I have spoken to him about you, though.
What if I told you I wasn't a filly?
I asked.
That would certainly open up a lot of questions,
he said.
If you're not a filly, then what would you be?
I kept staring at a point on the wall.
Well, I am a filly now, but I wasn't always this way.
I said.
I came to Equestria from somewhere else. A society where I was considered an adult.
So you're an adult in the body of a foal?
He asked.
I guess you could say that.
I could feel my heart vibrating in my chest.
It sounds crazy, and I don't have any proof.
You don't need to prove anything to me,
he said gently.
So if you were an adult, what kind of pony were you?
I was a nurse.
Were you a good nurse?
I'd like to think so.
As we all do,
he said.
I suppose the better question would be if you enjoyed being a nurse.
It was stressful but fulfilling.
Oh, yes, helping professions are good for that,
he said.
Both the stress and the fulfillment.
I inhaled sharply and tried to keep my voice even.
I didn't help Spoiled.
I began.
It's like as if I did everything wrong on purpose. I kept attacking her insecurities when I would see she was getting upset. I initiated unwanted physical contact in the hopes she would respond violently. I ended up getting some pony else hurt. It's like a waking nightmare. I could see that Spoiled couldn't control herself, and I took advantage of her.
Even if you are an adult, you are in the body of a filly.
Mirror spoke softly.
Spoiled is an adult, in an adult's body. Even if you did antagonize her, it's not okay for her to do what she did. She chose to react poorly. I'm not saying what you did was good or bad, but you're not responsible for other ponies' actions.
Well, that made sense. It was what every pony else had been telling me.
Okay, so if I asked you to insult me, would you?
Image asked.
Is there a reason I should?
And that's reasonable.
I don't understand what you're getting at.
Okay, everything we do in a way is manipulation,
he explained.
I can ask you to insult me, but you don't have to do it. You can antagonize Spoiled, but she didn't have to hurt you. We're constantly suggesting each other to act in a certain way. As a helping professional, we do this for the benefit of the patient. But if we suspect abuse...
Well, when I look at Spoiled, I have trouble seeing her as a functional adult. The way she reacted, the way she couldn't defend herself from my words, she feels like a patient to me. A vulnerable one. It was too easy, and I feel sorry for her. Not as an insult,
I added.
But genuinely, I feel bad. If she had an awareness of herself and how she appears, there's no way she would have done the things she did.
And that's the point. I'm sure as a nurse you were a mandatory reporter if you suspect full abuse. but you're not a nurse or an adult right now. The foal being abused was you.
He replied.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how I would react if I found myself in the body of a child, and I knew that was going on. Trying to convince everyone I was a psychologist and an adult, well, I would certainly be frustrated.
I didn't even try. I was too scared. I lied instead.
I admitted.
And?
And I let every pony believe I was a child. I accepted their help under false pretenses.
Because no pony would believe you.
I didn't even try. To be honest, I'm not even sure if you believe me now.
I said. He shrugged.
Stranger things have happened. How are you adjusting?
Should I even be adjusting? My whole life here is based on a lie.
I asked.
I suppose that's the problem. What do you want? Or what do you think you need?
He asked.
I don't know what I want anymore. Sometimes I'm not sure if I should be here at all.
I sighed.
Well, you have to be somewhere. Why did you leave home?
My God, that was blunt. That could have been a sensitive subject. It wasn't for me, but it could have been.
By accident.
What do you mean by that?
A stranger offered me a chance to travel to another world. I thought they were joking, so I said yes. And it turns out they were not joking.
I explained.
And how did you get here? Why can't you go home, assuming you want to?
He asked.
As far as I know, my consciousness was seamlessly transferred or copied into this body. I didn't wake up, I wasn't transported, I was just suddenly here. Which means this isn't my original brain. I'm not the original me, I just have the memories.
Where did you come from?
A place called Earth.
Can't say I've heard of it. Do you think you would still have the same mind if you had a different brain?
That's a difficult question.
Okay, let's say you were the original. What does that mean for you?
He asked.
It means I have a bunch of unexplained memories in my head from a past life this brain couldn't possibly have experienced.
Alright, and what does it mean if you're a copy?
He replied.
It means I have an explanation for the memories in my head. I'm not fake, if that's what you're getting at.
I shrugged.
No. I'm just wondering if that would change your needs.
He placated, and I shrugged.
I am what I am.
Do you want to go home?
With the way I got here, I don't think that's possible. And if it were, I guess I would have to.
I said.
You would have to.
I had a family.
I explained.
No children, thankfully, but parents and siblings. I can't abandon them to go live in another world. I can't let them think I'm dead. Or missing.
Oh, yes, I can see how that would be distressing. But I'm getting the sense that you may have some resentment over your obligation to go home if you were able. Am I missing the mark?
He asked. My breath suddenly felt sharp.
No,
I looked at my hooves.
I don't think resentment is the right word. I feel... well, I don't know.
Imagine there's a portal that will take you home right behind that door. Imagine you're walking towards it, or you can actually walk if that helps. What emotions do you feel?
He instructed.
I feel torn. I know I have to go back, but I feel like I'm giving up on a life that I'll never get back. Like if I step through, I may never be happy again. I don't want to be melodramatic about it, but it feels like suicide.
Those are some powerful emotions. I can see why you want to avoid thinking about it. I wonder though, if that's part of the reason, why is the idea of telling ponies about where you're from generate so much anxiety?
What do you mean?
Well, imagine if I told you right now that you couldn't go back. That it was completely impossible. What emotions does that bring up for you?
I feel... relieved.
I said.
But I also feel guilt and grief. I've lost everything from my old life. My family, my friends, the life I managed to build, it's all gone. Forever. My family would be devastated because, for all intents and purposes, I'd be dead.
Oh. I think you feel such anxiety over telling ponies where you're from because you know on some level that if you did, you might get an answer one way or the other about whether you could go home, he explained. And then you would be forced to confront one side of the terrible dichotomy you've described.
What if I don't tell them? What if I just try to forget my past life and start a new one here? Would that work? Or could that work?
That is an option, but it sounds like keeping this secret is causing you distress.
It is,
I admitted. Keeping this in limbo, not finding out if you're truly stuck here, you can't properly grieve for a life you feel like you may have been forced back into at any moment. And you can't commit to a life here when you fear it may be temporary, he said.
But the alternative is, it's not just about finding out if I can go home. I have no idea what could happen. It scares me. Everything would change, and I could never take it back.
I said. What do you think it would change?
I don't know, everything? Every pony is so understanding when I get anxious, or when I can't do things for myself, or I don't know things. If they knew I was actually an adult, I'd just be broken and useless. I know they probably wouldn't, but I just feel like every pony would hate me.
I said. Did ponies accept you when you were an adult in the other world? He asked.
They didn't have to. In my past life, I was capable and independent. I helped others. I didn't need them to help me. When I interacted with them, I could show them what I wanted them to see. And then I could go home.
I explained. I'm getting the sense that it was important for you to be in control. Relying on other ponies, trusting them with your true feelings makes you feel vulnerable. Am I on the right track? He asked.
I guess.
What is it that you wanted other ponies to see?
I wanted them to see that I was calm and reliable. That I cared for them and was interested in the same kinds of things they were. Actually, I was anxious, and I didn't really want to interact with them.
I said. It can be really hard to go through life constantly hiding your insecurities. What do you think would have happened if you did let someone see this side of your personality? Did you feel like you'd be rejected or mocked if you were to show your weaknesses?
I felt like if I showed weakness, people wouldn't want to be around me. Or that, yeah, I would be rejected and mocked.
I said. So now you're feeling like being seen as a child is the only thing protecting you from this fate. I can see how that would make it difficult for you to talk about this, he said.
Yes, that's exactly it.
I said, feeling a sense of relief that he'd put into words of what I was feeling.
It's like being seen as a child gives me permission to not have my shit together emotionally, to be ignorant, to make mistakes.
The thing is, hiding behind this persona of a child might be keeping you safe in some ways, but it's also preventing you from forming truly deep and meaningful connections with the ponies here.
What do you mean?
Well, if you're always pretending to be something you're not, then the relationships you form will never be based on the real you. And while it might be easier in the short term to keep up the act, in the long term it will only lead to more isolation and loneliness. Mirror explained.
But what if I can't be myself? What if the real me is just too broken?
I asked. Feeling vulnerable is always scary, but it's also a necessary part of being a pony. We all have our weaknesses and flaws, and learning to accept them and share them with others can actually make us stronger.
I know, but...
I trailed off, feeling overwhelmed. It's not an easy thing to do, but with practice, it gets easier. And it's worth it, Mirror said.
I do want to feel like I belong here. I don't know how to face this.
I said. It's never too late to start being honest. And you don't have to do it all at once. It can start with small steps, like telling one pony about your past, or even just one truthful thing about yourself that no pony knows.
Sweetie, no matter what happens, you'll still be my little girl. And nothing's gonna change that. I'll always be here for you when you need me. Even if you're actually a grown mare. I can't promise I'll understand everything that's going on with you, but I'll try.
Applejack said. I took a breath and let it out slowly.
I almost started to say something, but my throat seized up and I had to take another breath. Why was this so hard? Compared to being a different species, this should be nothing.
Applejack?
I squeezed my eyes shut.
I'm not actually a girl. You see, Applejack, I'm actually a
Boy. You imagine if that actually happened? Anywho, let's get on to our confident donators. Top donators: Jessie Smith, Zar630, BadassWaffle, Onlyonething, Ceru, Orion, and Caladis. Magic, Jock, Luciisu, Rayden, Runescythe, Will, Twinkie, Luigi, Chancellor Crust, Big Smoke, Murder Princess, Little Mighty, Solar Symphony, and many more awesome people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.